This sign appears to be as worn and rugged as Roosevelt himself when he's out here. Hi, welcome to the Elkhorn Ranch section of Theodore Roosevelt National Park in western North Dakota. This is one of the least visited national park sites in the country. I'm pretty sure of that. Would I bring my family here? Would I bring kids here? No. Is there a lot to learn here? There's some to experience. Now, my drive out from Wisconsin, by the way, welcome to Scotty Wandering. My name is Peter, and I have wandered off to visit Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Theodore Roosevelt National Park has three sections to it. There's the northern unit, the southern unit down at Moderna. Those are over an hour between the two. This is in the middle along the Little Missouri River. This is the site where Theodore Roosevelt had his cabin ranch along the Little Missouri River here amongst the bluffs of the Badlands of North Dakota, which is very much different from the Badlands in South Dakota because there's vegetation around them or on top of them. I spent my time while driving out here listening to audiobook of The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. It's a great biography that details his whole from birth up through to the presidency. And I listened to it my whole drive out. And it really talked about the time out here as well as the rest of his life. Now, listening to his life story is very much like watching the whole Star Wars saga. You have very swashbuckly things, you have very cowboy things, adventure, and then you've got the legislative portion of it. And all his aristocratic portion of his life in there. So there's so much variety in his life that this is where he went. All that stuff that bared down him on the East Coast that dragged him down maybe kept him energized, but he needed a different kind of energization, and that's what he found out here. Hard work, ranching, adventuring, getting out into nature and proving he could survive on his own and take on nature with very little except the guns at hand. He could survive out here. And this place really shows you what that was like. I cannot imagine navigating this area freely and finding your way back. And he would venture off into other, to Montana, which Montana's not that far from here actually. But have these grand adventures in this area, and this was his home base. Now, much is made of his coming out here after February 14th, when both his mother and his first wife died on the same day, of him coming out here, and this is where he got his life back in order. But that was in February. There was many months between then and when he could finally get out here. And he had been here before. It's not like that was the first time he came out here and discovered it. This was where he wanted to go back and retreat to after he had to finish some legislation in New York as a young legislator. So having listened to that biography, there's not much here, certainly in signage, that gives you more information. You would have known everything, including the fact that, yes, this was his ranch. He owned it, but he kind of co-owned it with some guides he met in Maine who took him into the backcountry of Maine. And then after he came out here for the first time, sort of started to establish the ranching business out here, he convinced those two gentlemen from Maine to come out here and join him and take on the job of running this ranch for him. So they were the ones who actually ran the ranch most of the time, and he would fit into his schedule a visit once a year for a month or two or three the most, to come out here, join them, do some cattle ranching, and then also do some hunting and adventuring into the woods. So they lived here a lot more than he did, including raising their families here. They brought their wives out and they spent their time here. The river's out off over that way through the cottonwoods. And there was one winter, or spring maybe it was, when the ice flow, the dams broke of the ice flow, but they built up. And the ice flow built up all the way across this area and pretty much up to the doorstep of their ranch. None of that's on the signage here, but that's all stuff you can learn on a long drive listening to biography. Now, what do you need to know to come here? Well, it's remote. I came down from the northern unit, and it was about an hour and a half drive. And then you hit some Forest Service roads, which are, we're in the national grassland out here. And you got some gravel roads to finish it up. So you're off pavement for a while, and the last little bit was a little rougher. And you get down here, by the end, there's just a little parking area, a couple little pieces of signage, and what you see here. There is a campground about 2-3 miles up the road, the Elkhorn campground. It is part of the national grassland, $10 a night. So if you want to stay here, you can. But I think I'll be moving on to the southern unit soon, which is still another little over an hour away. Now, if you just wanted to go between the north unit and the southern unit, that's a little over an hour drive straight through along a pretty good highway. Actually pretty busy because the oil and gas industry is very active in this area right now. Now, in Roosevelt's time, to get here, he'd come train to Moderna and then walk up the river or ride his horse up the river. And the hike in from the parking area is about 3/4 of a mile to the ranch house location. Now, why did I choose to come out here to this site? Well, I wanted the isolation for a little while. You'd think you're as far out as you can, but just over my shoulder up on the hilltop, there's a oil grasshopper to go along with all the other grasshoppers out here. So development is nearby. It's not certainly as remote as it used to be. I also wanted to come here because there are plenty of videos about Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Almost every one of them may talk about this, but nobody comes here. So I wanted to come here and share it with you, as well as experience it for myself. Is it for everybody? No. It's a long drive. I wouldn't have brought my wife here. She probably would have been bored, silly, or worried the whole time driving out here. But for me, it was worthwhile. So thanks for coming along. I hope you got something out of it. Whether you want to see it or not, share it with a friend. I'll see you on the next one. And get out and enjoy our public lands.